All the services that LiveRamp provide in the UK are based on three key things. We help people to collaborate. We want people to help to activate data-led campaigns based on their own definition of an audience. And then we help people to quantify or to measure the results of their advertising. I think here in the UK, how we need to connect data and how the utility that our clients and the sell side can get from LiveRamp is all about collaboration. And so it's really nice to have some really good partnerships here in the UK. I think when we look at those partnerships, one of the key ones might be working with Sky. So Sky, obviously seen as an innovator in terms of addressability here in Europe. And we work with them on a service where Sky clients can now have optionality on how they define and orchestrate their data to be able to activate it with Sky on some of their great products such as Sky AdSmart, or even for some of their analytics products. Outside of working with the TV players, we also kind of work directly with the brands. Some of those brands include Boots. I think they've really led with innovation here in the UK over the last couple of years, and they've started to show how they can increase the addressability of their own first-party data. So how can they create more value from the data assets they've got? So working with LiveRamp, we help them to manage, orchestrate their audiences, push it into more places for more better distribution, so they get greater addressability from their plans. And I think what really excites us is when we start to see the customer experiences and how that relates back from the clients. So it was nice to hear people like Pete Markey talking about how LiveRamp helps them connect to more of their audience in a better way, and to really kind of drive through some highly effective and targeted paid for media. And then one other partnership that we'd like to mention is Finecast. Finecast, I think, are really driving through and changing the UK ecosystem in terms of what can be done with TV. They're pushing through addressable audiences and making sure that data is used better to drive better TV campaigns. We work with them specifically in the CPG space, and we help them and their clients to activate and measure against more better defined or more precise audience definitions, so they can make sure that they are targeting with greater efficacy, and they're starting to then measure to show the effectiveness of TV in that space. What we do get in the UK, I suppose, is that we've got the leading European market in terms of digital television investment. And that's been driven by, I think, a lot of innovation that's actually been done on the supply side. What we've already seen is that we have the largest TV players already have a good sense of identity, which then can be linked through to their audiences. So not only are they allowing better things like reach and frequency by using their own data, they're starting to be able to match that against first-party assets. I'd expect to see more third-party data being used and more different variations of an audience that can be used for different TV destinations here in the UK. So I would say, while we may not be in the same space as the US, and that's got a lot to do with regulation, we are starting to see how people are starting to use addressable TV in more places. And hopefully they see the experiments from those digital spaces, which can then help to optimize what we will always continue to be a linear market. And even though that is shrinking while the digital ecosystem is starting to grow as the consumer trends change. What we've seen in the US, and where we've been so successful in the US, is we've helped people to collaborate when there's a many-to-many relationship. So one, how can brands look at a single definition and audience and push it across multiple different TV players in multiple different local markets? And how can they measure against those? It's something that LiveRamp does really well by adding one layer of connectivity where a data definition can come in and a single data definition can come out. So you can decide who you want to target, and you can target almost anywhere. Then you can do exactly the same on the measurement side. So regardless of where you run, and it doesn't matter if it's linear addressable, or if that is straight digital, or if that's kind of from the full streaming services, you can start to have a good idea of things of reach and frequency. Here in the UK, when we don't have quite as much of that many-to-many, we're starting to look at how we can help collaborate between that few-to-many that we tend to see here in the UK. They've all got the TV companies such as Sky ITV, Channel 4. They've all actually got quite good identity assets. So what we're looking to do is helping them collaborate. So how can we make or help those TV companies work with their clients, and how can we make sure their inventory packages are offered in the best possible way? Or when we're working with the client side, how can we make sure that client definition is equal across all of the platforms they want to engage with? So we are looking to help them get data in and data out in that same clean version, but we just have to do it through a slightly different method where we have to collaborate directly with those TV companies who obviously have a lot of their own assets and their own capabilities in their own regard, in their own rights. I think there's really exciting things going when you've got the development of C-Flight, which kind of goes through with the most of those three main broadcasters, you're starting to see the fact that people want to be able to collaborate more on the data. They want their buyers to be able to see what that deduplicated reach looks like, and they want that to really push through greater investment into TV. I think we'll continue to see, as the barriers lower, to make sure you've got different audience definitions in TV, more advertisers coming into the TV space. I think we'll start to see people who have traditionally been looking at identity-led platforms such as social, which kind of comes from those data-heavy performance brands, start to really invest more in the TV space, which will just get more advertisers in, and it should be a different budget. So I'd like to see more people investing more in TV from different spaces. I think the extra innovation that you see from some of these brands, which will allow first-party data in, or even different definitions of an audience, such as second or third party, will also be key. And I think that's something you'll see more of. I think you'll see people collaborate on what an audience definition is, and it won't only come from first party data. You'll start to see people who are rich in data, whose data is valuable. And we look at the likes of the CPG world, where not all brands have their own data, but the retailers do have great amounts of data. Can they use one of their audience definitions to make sure that they target precisely, or they can target with less wastage against specific audiences? So you're still seeing the full reach against the audience you want to be able to measure against, but you're measuring that against a deterministic data set rather than going against a panel-based or a demographic data set. So I think there'll be more use of data. I think it'll be used by more advertisers, and I think we'll start to see more collaboration in between second and third party data sets.